I am testifying to you of the English's tongue or language, should you prefer. The language that was prophesied by Yohanan to be used as the international language in the last days for all the earth to use as a form of communication. That is, at the time of the end, which is now. Nevertheless, and as we go back now and continue in the book of Revelation, chapter 6 and verse 6, this particular measure of wheat for a penny that is found here in verse 6, you must keep in mind, is absolutely, quote, one measure for a penny, end of quote. Now, the question that you should have is, what penny? What penny is it that Yohanan is speaking of, or that he wrote on his scrolls? What is the prophetical cryptogram of the original meaning of this so-called, quote, penny, end of quote? Did Yohanan truly write the English's noun, quote, penny, spelled Penny, end of quote, as we know it today in English? Like that of the U.S. and Canadian coin worth 1 cent. A U.S. and or a Canadian penny that weighs about 3 grams. Can 3 grams truly be used to weigh 1 measure of wheat? It takes 454 grams to equal 1 pound. So imagine how many pennies it would take to measure the remnant of Jacob, of this prophetical mystery. If it was truly referring to the U.S. or United States penny, as we know it today, I am testifying to ye in question of the United States penny that is made in their mint, M-I-N-T, that was created by U.S. Congress that passed the Carnage Age of 1792 and has its headquarters today in Washington, D.C. That's the penny that I'm testifying to you about now, or testifying to you of. Is this the penny that Yohanan used? Many biblical scholars and religious scholars, those of theology, and even the pastors and all false prophets today, has taught the world to believe that this is the regular penny like that of the U.S. or the Canadian penny, the one that I testified of earlier, metaphorically, of course, using that penny as a metaphor of the head being the slave master and the tail being the slaves. Is this the penny that Yohanan truly spoke of, the way we read it today in English? Remember, again, penny only weighs about 3 grams. And it takes 454 grams to equal 1 pound. So imagine how many pennies that would take. I am testifying to you of the U.S. penny that has the dimensions, the capacity, and the amount of something that is ascertained by measure from a standard unit of measurement. So, again, I ask the question, is this the penny that Yohanan wrote over 1900 years ago? Well, the answer to that question is no. N-O. The English's noun, quote, penny, spelled Penny, end of quote, that is read in the book of Revelation, chapter 6 and verse 6, is a prophetical simile of the Hebraic word that is spelled from right to left, Gimel Resh He, pronounced Gera, Gera. And this is that Hebraic word that was used by Yochanan, as so it was used by Moshe, or Moses, should you prefer, and as it was always used by us, the Hebrew Israelites, throughout our history. In fact, this is the Hebraic word, Gera, that we were taught by Yahweh ben Yahweh to use, and was commanded to Moshe by Yahweh to use when we are to measure certain foods and livestock that we sold and that we sell to our Hebrew neighbors with shekels. That's shekels, spelled Shekels. Now, this Hebraic word, Gera, that is read in Revelation chapter 6 and verse 6, is a simile of how it is connected to the law of Yahweh, to his servant Moshe, and to his servant that is well renowned today as Micah, the so-called Moristite of that mysterious measure that is found in chapter 6 of Micah's book. So let us go again and read the connection of Yahweh, of his law, to Moshe, as it reads in the book of Exodus, chapter 30, and verses 11 through 14. That reads, as I quote, "And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and to Moses, saying, When thou takest the sum of the children of Israel after their number, then shall they give every man a ransom for his soul unto Yahweh. When thou numberest them, that there be no plague among them, when thou numberest them. This they shall give, every one that passeth among them that are numbered, half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. A shekel is 20 gerahs, and half shekel shall be the offering of Yahweh." Verse 14, "Every one that passeth among them that are numbered, from 20 years old and above, shall give an offering unto Yahweh." End of quote. This passage is a direct connection to Micah chapter 6 and verses 10 through 13. So let's go to the book of Micah and read chapter 6 and verses 10 through 13, which reads, quote, "And there, or are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked?" That's a question. Are there yet treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked? And the scant measure that is abominable? Verse 11, "Shall I count them pure with the wicked balances, and with the bag of deceitful weights?" Verse 12, "For the rich men thereof are full of violence, and the inhabitants thereof have spoken lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their mouth. In verse 13, therefore also will I make thee sick in smiting thee, and making thee desolate because of thy sins. End of quote. The I that is mentioned, or that is speaking in verse 13, is Yahweh speaking. And as you heard, Yahweh said that he will smite thee with sickness, and making thee who are smitten desolate. Because of what? Because of thy sins. This passage proves of the book of Micah, chapter 6, that this is the day of all the souls back then that paid their ransoms of 10 gerahs after the shekel of the sanctuary that they were supposed to pay by law as their offering unto Yahweh. And all of those souls that did not pay their ransom for their souls for today are now cursed by Yahweh with a plague and a disease, whereby in Micah chapter 6 and verse 10, the term, quote, scant measure, end of quote, is found. This term was created by the Hebraic word that is spelled from right to left, Resh, Zion, Wav, Nun Sofit, pronounced raison. That means, quote, wasting of disease, end of quote. This passage of Micah chapter 6 and verse 10 through verse 13 is not only connected to the book of Exodus chapter 30 and verses 12 and 13, but it is also connected directly with Revelation chapter 6 and verse 6. Now you might be asking, how is that? Well, because that, quote, one measure of wheat, end of quote, is lying in the tray that is on the right side of the balances.